This year, in 2026, we celebrate America's 250th anniversary, and it got me thinking about our own history right here in Souderton. This is a place where generations of people have built their lives, their businesses, and their families. Your home, the land that it sits on, the businesses you enjoy, and the institutions you rely on, they didn't just pop up in the time that you've needed them, and I think we take for granted those that came before us that made our community what it is today. And so the goal of this podcast is to interview Souderton Legends, just some of the people that made significant contributions to our community in their time. For some listeners, this may be a walk down memory lane. And for many, I hope it serves as a reminder and an inspiration to do good in your community in your time here. I'm Mayor of Souderton, Dan Yoakum, and welcome to the Souderton Legends podcast. And today we are joined by a true living legend. John Ruth is a brilliant storyteller and a direct connection to generations of our ancestors gone by. John's distinguished career took him around the world, but his focus remained right here, documenting the deep history of this community as far back as records exist. He has written extensively about the Indian Valley and beyond, and has been integral in documenting and preserving our Anabaptist heritage. Regarding Souderton, John once said to me, and I'm sure others, "There's a there there." And genuinely, that simple sentiment was my inspiration to record this series of podcasts. There's a there here. So John, very sincerely, we could not be more excited to welcome you, and thank you for participating in this interview. We appreciate it, and welcome.
Thank you.
And we are also joined today by Cory Alderfer. Cory is another amazing local historian. She has documented the history of Souderton, maybe not quite as extensively as John, because no one has extensive knowledge as John does. But Cory is a founding member of the Souderton Telford Historical Society, and she has read and documented the Souderton Independent all the way back to its very beginning. So we should have a very exciting conversation between John Ruth and Cory Alderfer. So Cory, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we could start anywhere, but the first and most important thing I told John, he told me I was allowed to ask him, can you tell us how old you are, John?
This is May 7th, 2026, and back on January 8th of this year, I was 96.
96. Mm-hmm. So you were born in 1930.
Correct.
That is pretty amazing. And for listeners, your memory, your physicality is very, very impressive for 96. So we could start anywhere. I told John before we started recording that I'm actually nervous to record this, to interview him, because I'm interviewing one of my heroes in talking to you. And no matter how well this interview goes, I'll feel disappointed that we didn't talk about more, because you are you know so much, we'll never be able to cover it all. But I thought an interesting place to start would to say that you have a doctorate from Harvard. You could have gone anywhere in the world and did to pursue your career, but you chose to focus right here. So can you talk about what inspired you to celebrate our local history?
Well, let's just get this straight. I'm an unreconstructed Anabaptist. As I try to look for some common thread in my life, it is a search for beginnings. Now, this is the 500th year of the first baptism of what we call Mennonites. Now, the Mennonites have all kinds of problems. Just they have the same quota that everybody has. So they have no advantage. However, they have a certain, well, I track things back to their source. 3 years ago, when I was 92, or 4 years ago, I was born and raised along the east branch of the Perkiomen Creek. And I said to myself, why haven't I ever gone to its source? So I got a friend to drive me, and we drove over to Bedminster Township and went to the place where the water that seeps up out of the hillside, turns into a trickle, which then becomes the Branch Creek. Now, I was 92 before I had ever done that. But why hadn't I done that? But when an old man on an old Alderfer, I don't know his first name, he's not living anymore, told me that the branch started on his farm, I said, why haven't I ever tracked it to its source? Well, that previous spring, I think, I was over in Zurich, Switzerland, to attend a granddaughter's wedding in Croatia. And I said, I will go if you will allow me to stop in Zurich on the way home. And my daughter-in-law, who had the Letterock tea room for, 25 years, within 30 minutes had me booked, because I wanted to go to a town in Switzerland called St. Gallen, which had a certain letter in it. And that letter was written by an unripe young man who performed the first baptism in our tradition, Conrad Grebel, who grew up at Zurich. And he wrote a letter to the leader of the Peasants' Revolt. That letter that Conrad Grebel wrote to him 4 months before Conrad performed the first baptism was a fan letter. And it was written in Demotic German, not in Latin, which he was used to writing in. And I want to see what that letter, which I knew was a proposal for what became the Anabaptist movement there. I want to see that letter. So I read it carefully, and then I went over into the town of St. Gallen. A friend of mine took me so I could go into the archive and ask for that letter. And I wanted to physically touch that letter. Physically touch it. I want to go back to the beginnings and get the feeling of the beginning. I won't go into what was in that letter, except that it was a proposal for another take on Christendom, what had become Christendom, and was willing to take the ultimate risk. It said two things. It said, go back to the scripture and take a fresh look and go with it and form a church in conformity with that. And on the way, and by the way, we do not use the sword. We expect to have the same fate that Jesus had. Wow. That had the sense of a new beginning, return to sources. And there were some things in that letter which were clearly not what I would even propose to accept. But it was the sense, it was a naive beginning. It was radical. And it was not all right, but it had the sense of a fresh look. And I touched that letter just like I went to the source of the branch where things started.
That is incredible, John. That is you have traced your roots, or all our roots, all the way back to what year was that letter written?
1524 in September. 1525 in January was the first baptism.
and you've touched the source of what became all the later events that brought us to this couch we're talking on today.
That is right. Had that line not been crossed, that threshold not been reached, I would not exist.
Mm-hmm. Right. That is
and it's not something I fully defend. I fully acknowledge its naivete.
Well, but it exists, and you saw it with your own eyes, and that is a tie right back to the very foundation of all our lives.
Could I add something else here?
You can add whatever you want, John.
For Cory here. Cory I just learned in the car coming over here that she is not from here and not from this background, but something force as real as gravity, as real as any history, is not depending upon literal inheritance, drives her. And I can tell a story relating to the fact she married an Alderfer. Mm-hmm. A woman who married into the Alderfers, Helen Stanley, I believe she rather descends from Alderfers, but is not part of her background, wrote a remarkable Alderfer book. You know the book, don't you?
The family book?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Very remarkable.
Yes.
In that book, she says, and I grew up on an Alderfer farm. My great-grandfather was an Alderfer. I read the book, and she said that the Alderfers come from Steinsfurt in Germany. Well, I led tours in Germany for Mennonites and anybody of Mennonite descent, or anybody at all. And so I looked up the Steinsfurt, and I went to a Steinsfurt that had nothing to do with the Aldefers. And then somehow I found out that there was another Steinsfurt, which was a little village in an area in Baden-Württemberg called the Kraichgau, Kraichgau. I knew nothing about it. But as I got maps, I found a little Steinsfurt, a little village in the Kraichgau called Steinsfurt, and I went there, and I knew nothing about it. But I went and stood on Larknest Street, and there was an old man there, or I thought he was old, explaining to some tourists in 1981 of how Alexander the Great's son was hiding overnight in a little place in this town on Larknest Street. After he was done talking, I stood with him. His name was, well, it won't come to me now. It'll come when I don't need it. His house, across from his house, was an old ruined building. And he said, we're going to demolish it because but he said, there's a mystery about the building. He said, a bulldozer came, and as it pushed, something shook. And we had a funny feeling, should this be destroyed or not? It's a ruin, it's no good, I can't think of the phrase now, but it still has its old form, but something happened here. I said, do you think it was around 1661 or 2? Yeah. I said, that was my ancestry. I'm here because for the Alderfers, but in this building the Mennonites were singing, who had come up from Switzerland and Alsace after the 30 Years' War, and they were not fully official, and they were not supposed to meet. They were tolerated, but as they were singing, they were arrested and given a steep fine. Landis, Moyer, Rosenberger, and that alarmed him. And he went to Karlsruhe to the, after I was gone, and found the records of that arrest and the name of those arrested, and stopped the process of demolishing, and went and talked to the history-minded people with money in Steinsfurt, and they decided to save and restore the building. And now it exists as what they call a Schmuckstück, an ornament of local history.
Wow.
And Hans, I can't think of his last name now. They say he's gone now. He died the last time after I came there many years. I don't know how many times with groups. I took over 1,000 people leading tours, and that building is saved, and it is now an ornament of the community and a marker in the community's history. And
in that building,
the cellar,
was the foundation of every local family that you just named.
Not every local family, because they came from this area to this area from various places in Europe, 5, 6 different places. But that is a main one, and because of that chance conversation of trying to go back to the sources, now it has become a place where local people go.
Yeah. Oh, that, I have a loss for words talking to you, John. That is so profound. I don't even know how to respond to that. To go back to the source, and metaphorically, you've gone back to the source of the Branch Creek, which I know has also had an impact on your life. You grew up next to it, correct?
I grew up 1,000 feet from the Branch Creek. Yeah.
And where was that?
It is between Harleysville, if you would go from Harleysville to Selfville, halfway in between, about.
And this sounds almost silly to talk about, given the profoundness of everything else you just said, but since you're here, and at age 96 and still so lucid, I would love to know, to talk about you and talk about what it was like being here and growing up in Souderton or the area in the 30s and the 40s.
Here's an interesting thing. Now that I'm over there near Lansdale, between Harleysville and Lansdale, when I get up in the morning, before I'm fully vocal and just mutter to myself about anything, it's in Dutch.
You still speak Pennsylvania Dutch or Dutch, proper Dutch?
Yeah, I don't do it very well, but not long ago I got a visit from I get visits over there from Lancaster County where they still talk Dutch. They don't talk Dutch around here. And a man and his wife came and insisted on talking for 2 hours in Dutch. It was work, but it is Muttersprach. It is mother tongue.
You do have this connection to the old order that most modern people do not.
Around here they don't. I get visits from Lancaster, Cumberland, Indiana. It's a strange experience. I can't even rationalize it. I can experience it. And there is something that is You know, there is a German philosopher, Max Weber, said there are two kinds of relationship, Gesellschaft and Gemeinschaft. One is covenantal, it is pre-rational. The other is rational. They're both good, but they're not the same. I can tell you a quick story about a lawyer in Souderton.
Please.
He watched a business transaction between two men who had Gemeinschaft. Everybody has Gesellschaft, but Gemeinschaft is what is not just mine, but gemein. It is the language of covenant and trust. And he watched a man drop a check, this young lawyer, with no paper, no sign, no legal process for $1 million.
Wow.
And he thought he knew reality. He knew Gesellschaft, he didn't know Gemeinschaft. You either have trust or you don't. If you have only Gesellschaft, you need lawyers. If you have Gemeinschaft, you don't need them. And I know both of them. I know what they're talking about. And if you don't know Gemeinschaft, if you base your life and awareness on only Gesellschaft, companionship, and contract, not trust. Trust but verify. Yes, Reagan was right. He was right. Trust but verify. With Gemeinschaft, you don't have to verify. I know both realities because when I was 20 years old, the old Gemeinschaft kicked in. They told me, you are one of three men as are in a candidate to lot for ordination. I never questioned it. If I wasn't oriented to Gesellschaft. That's why I say I'm an unreconstructed Gemeinschaft person. I don't defend it or look down on Gesellschaft, but it's not the same. And my life is, I'm sitting here because of my Gemeinschaft orientation. Now, I trusted too much. In this sense that the Gemeinschaft orientation expected me to accept it, and I did, and that's naive in Container's world. And I remember a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. I said, I'm going to trust. I gave up. I was an English professor. I said, I think I'll trust the community and do community work. He said, you can trust the community, but when the community is finished with you, this is around 1976, it'll kick you in the teeth. That's Gesellschaft.
Okay. And you tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think one of the questions I had written down, I think you have answered it, and you can tell me if that's true, is that there is something about this area that is different than most, and what you just described might be a big part of that, the people here. Would you say that's true?
Yes, I will answer that by telling you what my son was told. When they saw things that the Souderton area, the Indian Valley was doing, both Quakertown and Lansdale opened up conversations. After a while, they fizzled with both of them saying, and nothing against them. Nothing,
You can say anything against them in this podcast, you know.
Well, I say this with appreciation for their candor. Both of them, they said in their own lingo, you have a different community down there.
That
you have a different feeling.
and no one but John Ruth can verbalize what that is, but you'd have, and it's so true. That's
But I lived through Gesellschaft replacing Gemeinschaft.
sure. Yeah.
I lived
Or worse.
until warehouses and tract housing. I lived until the mother tongue with its humor and idiom was replaced. And other people then superimposed their own trends, and including most of the Mennonite people themselves, most of them. Only a few have it anymore. It's like Sam Hackman, the deacon, when there was still some Gemeinschaft at Franconia. And I had 25 years of it because I was ordained already in 1950.
Wow.
And so, but it fizzled. And old deacon said it in so many words. He says, he looked with dismay upon what had happening to the older ethos. And he said in Pennsylvania Dutch, even Psuchot can ord me. Even visiting Sunday dinner doesn't make sense anymore.
Time marches on.
And then when you have Franconia townships, Indian Valley's celebration 250th, that is before even the United States was formed. You have a big truck going through Franconia with red, white, and a blue and said 250 years proud. That's exactly what you don't want. Pride. Pride goeth before a fall. However, I would say this in critique of my own Gemeinschaft. We didn't even bother keeping our own history. We didn't bother pondering the way we replaced the indigenous people. We are only now opening a conversation and listening to the Indians.
And John, there goes the fire whistle. Can you hear it in your headphones? John, I want to talk about the Lenape people. First of all, I learned from you that it's not Lenape like everyone says. John Ruth says it's Lenape, so it's Lenape, right?
And it's not Lenny Lenape either.
So I want you to tell us about, give us 5% of what you know about the Lenape people, because you know everything so much. But also, I want to talk because even at 96, you are still an activist, because you have been integral in trying to rebuild that relationship, which is very admirable. Can you tell us about the Lenape people?
Well, you take Hatfield, which is the Clemenses. When the Clemenses came in 1709, by that time, our Lenapes were pretty well gone. They were out along the Schuylkill and the Susquehanna. There was never any real contact. Now, the Moravians, who founded Bethlehem, they made a heroic attempt to work with the Lenapes, and they won some of them. They actually got the Lenapes from up around Bethlehem. They converted some, and there was a 60 or 70 year successful relationship with the Lenapes, even though the Lenapes kept moving west. The book that I wrote that came out in 2022, one or so, was an attempt to let a careful reader hear the Lenape voice. And there are 4 or 5 times when in my book, you can hear what the Lenape said, and you can see they're not understanding each other. But William Penn, partly naively, was different from those in Massachusetts and Virginia. And he had a genuine conversation, particularly in a meeting, I think, up around Percy, up around Silverdale, which is, it's impossible with the sources we have to nail it down. It's often said that the conversation with Tammany was down along the Delaware at Passyunk, or my mind isn't very clear about that, but I think the real conversation happened up here.
Wow.
And I tried to make that clear. It was never forgotten by them, but you can tell in the conversation with each other, the Indians would be, when they came and complained about the prices of beaver, what is it? Why aren't they as good some years, other years? They weren't understanding it. Or when they, about land, William Penn's secretary in Philadelphia, James Logan, decided to have a document that they would all sign. When the next time they came, they would sign it, and they would say, "We own no more land," in 1718. And from then on, he tried to use that. Indians still didn't understand. When the Indians had moved first from Lehigh, and then from Perkiomen, and then from Brandywine, and then from Tulpehocken, and then from Susquehanna, Shamokin, and Ohio. And when they realized that the guys from Virginia with money were trying to play ball with that land, and they didn't even want, the Indians offered to help to drive the French away from Fort Duquesne, which became Pittsburgh. When they realized that they weren't going to have anything of that, General Braddock told them, "No, you won't have any land. You gave up your land." That's when they attacked. The French said, "See what's happening? You're winding up with nothing." That's when they attacked. That's when you have your French and Indian War. For 70 or 80 years, they played ball with. They thought they were going to. They used the word love over and over again. We were not raised with that. We went to school with pictures of Christopher Columbus and George Washington up there, and the cherry tree twig of the cherry twig and the axe, which was a myth. We were told that story. We were not told the other story, and frankly, today, I don't want to take a political stand, but when you hear that you have to tell a certain story, you can't tell a certain story. We don't want a certain story. We want our myth. Really, that ain't right. I want truth. I don't care what the truth is. I want it.
And yes, that is extremely refreshing to hear from someone of your generation, John. But we won't go into it too much. But in this conversation about going right back to the source, the Lenape people are that for this land. Would you say that's true?
Well, they didn't own land. The land owned them. They didn't have the concept of owning land. Do you own sky? Do you own the water, creeks? What is this ownership business? I'm not saying they had that. It shouldn't be that way. I'm saying they didn't understand it.
Right. And it's I don't know exactly where I read this. You can correct me if I'm wrong, that the last around in this area of Lenape people was sort of somewhere over by where current day Lower Road is, by where the new high school is. Do I have that correct?
There are 2 or 3 places that in legend are claimed to be the last. For instance, there's the last in my area was one of the legends is, and there's probably, there is, I'm sure, truth in it, but I'm not sure we understand it, that Henry Hunsaker, our Mennonite bishop, preached at the burial of the last Indian woman to be in our community. And then there's others that say there was an Indian trader in Telford. And then there was others that located over near, on the way to Doylestown, near Chalfont. So there are various myths like this.
But they were long gone by the time any modern person is.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I think if you would have talked to Abram Harley Castle, who lived over near Vernfield, he could have still been specific about what he heard from grandparents who knew the Indians yet, for instance. But no one, people did record what he would tell that he knew. Governor Pennypacker did, for instance. And we have Governor Pennypacker's his record of what he heard from Abram Harley Castle, who was born around 1810 or something like that.
And that's, John, that if he was a link back to the generation before him, you are that for us. You are a bastion of information that goes back to the generations prior. So that's...
Well, I want to tell you that I grew up without being told anything. I had to scrounge what I could get. I knew two people. No, I knew more than that. I knew two people who had the instinct for it. And that was, one is still living, Alan Kaiser, living in the Birches at Harleysville, and his friend, his contemporary, Clarence Culp. Two bachelors who had the instinct. And I knew a man from Telford, Charles Price.
Sure.
Charles Price had a hatchery. His collection is at the library there at Telford. He traveled to Germany. He went to sources. He was a remarkable man.
And the Price family, that family tree that he put together, and he wrote a book about it, I believe.
He wrote more than one book. He wrote the Hartzell history, I think. And he went over to the Kraichgau. He talked to historians over there in the 1960s. And I was in his home when he had a collection. And he knew much more than I did. And he was friendly to a young person. He helped me and gave me one of his books.
So, John, can you tell us? I don't want to cut you off if you want.
No.
You. So, I mean, you're talking about the 60s. You were already almost middle-aged by then. You were let me see where I wrote this down. You were a pastor at Salford Mennonite.
No, not at Salford, at a little mission station in Conshohocken.
Oh, okay.
I was making my living by working in a parts department of a Ford garage. And my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, said, "You need to go to college." So I went to this little tiny new college called Eastern Baptist College. And I wanted to major in history. And they had one history professor, and he was younger than I was. He had a master's degree from U of P. And we had a frustrated English professor who found my writing cheering, and he cheered and pushed until I had no idea, but I had no money, was in debt, had a wonderful wife,
Roma, who you are still married to today.
And
How long have you been married? A long time.
well, don't put this on until after I'm gone. But if Roma and I live another 3 weeks, we will hit our 75th wedding anniversary.
75.
We're not telling anybody.
Wow, that's amazing. And Roma herself is an incredible local historian. She does Proctor and she's an artist. She's amazing.
Roma worked on Proctor. I don't know anybody else who would do what she would do because everybody else does their own thing, but she copied. And the sincerest form of copying is almost the best originality because everybody does other things and that has its validity too. Taking the mode and doing your own thing. But she was willing to copy and would take my German translations into English and going down to the tiniest drop of ink. And I can stand there in our little apartment and look at about 8 of her best Proctors. And it's like the out-of-body experience.
You both are legends. Now, again, with the profoundness of the way you talk, John, it almost seems silly to talk about things like, things that went on in your life. But I am fascinated by that because you grew up here in a time where there are few people left that will remember this is a Souderton podcast, that will remember Souderton the way you did. You worked in town. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did, the people you knew, what buildings you worked in, that kind of thing?
Well, I had no money to go to college, so I worked a year at Schauneman's.
Schauneman's. Tell us about Schauneman's.
All day long, I pressed the seams on men's coats of men, shoulders of men's coats. The seam, the seam, SEAM. There was 4 little presses, and you pushed with your foot. You locked it, and with your hand you steamed. First, you gathered the seam. You made the shoulder shrink a little bit, and then when you had steamed it, and you steamed it you pressed with your right hand a handle that steamed this, and then you locked it in that steamed position until it cooled. You locked it with your foot, and you had 2 of those. While the one dried, you did the other one, back and forth all day long, 8 hours a day.
And where was Schauneman's located? Current day. Front Street.
South Front Street.
No, I know the street. I could drive right there.
Front Street and Montgomery, right? The factory that.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
It was
Cory?
at the end of the road. I'll tell you what. You came in and came down through the hollow, which is actually the beginning of Skippack Creek coming under. In Dutch, you called it the dike, DEICH. And then you came up to where the big bank was. What is that one?
What
Washington?
street is that? Broad Street.
Yes. And then you turn, and then you went over a little, crossed the railroad tracks and turned right and went to the end.
But at that time, you couldn't cross the railroad tracks, right? You had to...
For a while, you couldn't. For a while, you could.
Yeah.
So you went over, and then you turn where Landis's, you can buy...
refrigerators and
stuff. You turned right, and the Independent was on the left, and you kept on going to the end. And at the end, on the right, were Schauneman's. And a lot of people worked there. And you could talk Dutch to the pressers.
That was always what my grandparents owned a store in Souderton. You, of course, knew them. And my grandfather always said he had to be prepared because some of his customers would come in and everybody in town had to know how to speak Pennsylvania Dutch, which is so far away from where we are now. It's hard to even imagine that one generation ago.
Well, I have a poem here I can read about the loss of Dutch.
I would love for you to do that.
Let's see. We don't know who wrote it, and it was given to me, I think, by Curtis Berge. I'll give you both the German and English. I'll read you the first, line by line. It's
Please
not
do.
long.
Well, please do.
This is Die Muttersprache, the mother tongue. Die Muttersprache, the mother tongue. Die Schriftspielerei now falls asleep in dem gesegneten Platz, in this beloved place. Das tut mir weh, this gives me pain. Von Kopf zu Fuß, from head to foot. Und now es Mensch im Herz, and most of all in my heart. From Schipach Creek, from Skippack Creek, to Morwood Bridge. Und alles dort geschwissen, and everything between them. Da war doch mal alles Deutsch. Here it was all completely Dutch. Es geht mir Mensch vergessen. It's now mostly forgotten. This is 1995.
Wow.
And I don't know how early it was written. Die Wada Hanma Junkeland, the words that we, when young, had learned. Sie waren hat zu sagen. They weren't hard for saying. Wir haben eine gut verstanden. We understood each other well. Die Arbeit fast zu draw, to get our work accomplished. Die Moyer, die Gotschall, the Moyers and the Gotschall folks. Die Landesleute, the Landes folks. Sind noch some though, or some still here. Sind some heit, and some here yet. Our Deutsch and Deutsch Spaß and Deutsch and Dutch enjoyment in dem Liebe Bezirk, in this blessed dear neighborhood, geht ganz vergessen. It's going forgotten. Is soll nicht arg? Isn't that awful? In 50 years, when sie suchen when they look around, for Deutsche Leid, for Dutchy folk, und ihre Stimme, and their old voice, no one sie saw, then when they were saying, was and schon, what a shame. Sind keine noch da. There's no more left in Franconia land. That's why the Groundhog Lodge lasted so long. I guess it's still going.
Grunzau? Yeah.
Grunzau Lodge. Right. You can't tell the jokes they told then anymore.
No.
Because not only because people don't know them, but they would be considered bad. I heard the last Pennsylvania Dutch one I attended was anti-Semitic, was making fun of black folk. Anybody but Pennsylvania Dutch. Now, I thought it was wicked, but I don't know when I laughed so hard.
Sure.
Honest.
Well, sure, it was a cultural institution at a different time.
I said to Jake Frederick, who was a nice guy.
Mr. Souderton.
Yeah. And I said to him, Jake, how can you do that? How can you can't, it's wrong. Oh, he said it goes in one ear and out the other.
The Grunzau Lodge. I don't know if it's really still around or not, but there's almost no one left that speaks it. I know Merle Brown was, he passed away probably 2 years ago. You know Merle. But I think he was the last person I know that was still teaching Pennsylvania Dutch. But yeah, it's a lost language.
Pennsylvania Dutch people can laugh at anything. And I don't know where you get that same humor anywhere else. And see, for years, this was, you would have a expression like this as some big shot would come and mouth off. The local people would say, "It's not Guns English. Is he only English?" A loudmouth from Philadelphia would come and shoot off, and you'd listen to him, but your ultimate check was what language?
Sure, in Pennsylvania, Dutch. So you worked at Schaanemann's, speaking Dutch with all the people around you.
Not all the people.
Some of them.
Some of the bosses couldn't even talk English.
Well, that's how you
talk Dutch.
That's how you got away with talking about them, probably. How about anywhere else? You worked, I think you've worked elsewhere in town, too, over the years, correct?
Where?
You've worked just, where else in town, or where?
Oh, in the Grable's book, in the Herald bookstore.
Oh, okay. And where was that?
That was right across, right near, up the road a little bit from Fisher's Furniture. Mm-hmm. He was a piece of work, too. I mean,
P.K. Fisher?
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. He owned my house. And he owned, well, you tell the story. He had as close to a connection as Hollywood as Souderton will ever get, probably.
With the Palomino horses.
That's right, yeah. Do you know anything about that? Remember anything? He owned Trigger. I know that.
He didn't like my book on Souderton. He read it and complained to Charlie Hoflich. Charlie Hoflich liked it, so he wouldn't accept that criticism. He said, "Oh, P.K. Fisher,
Well, I gotta say that John wrote the history of Indian Valley and its bank at the bank's 100th anniversary in 1976. Next week, I'm interviewing on this podcast Merle Moyer, Marvin Anders, Leon Moyer, and Bill H. So the people that were there when you wrote it. And Cory and we use that book, as well as others you've written, as our source material for all that we know. So you have really that.
Well, two things about that. When I read it or read in it later, I thought of how much wasn't in it that should be in it. Mm. And second, I've forgotten a lot of that. And the stuff that would have been, frankly, most maybe fascinating, I couldn't put in.
Tell us now.
Yeah, you
no, I wouldn't put it on there. There's the underside of everything.
Sure.
And I'm telling you, I could scandalize your audience.
Sure. Well, we stop recording, then you can talk. So one other thing I wanted to, I could talk to you all day, John. This is really, but we won't, I promise. One question I had written down, and you can take this wherever you want to take it, is there any, because all these historical figures, and we haven't even, Cory is sitting here, although listeners, it's funny, John, take this as I think a compliment. I wanted Cory here because at 96, I really didn't know how you would be. I didn't know if you could remember all this, and we wanted to make sure Cory was here in case you needed a little help. Well, listeners will have, obviously, you don't need any help at all. But I think one thing that you and Cory share is you both have such an appreciation for the people, not just the words on the page of history, but the people. That Cory talks about these people like she's friends with them, like she's known them her whole life, even though they were dead 100 years before she was born. And I think you have that same sense. And I'm wondering if there's any person in our local history, not necessarily just Souderton, but everything that you've studied, that you would say is inspirational to you or foundational to the community, a person in history that you really identify with.
I came to Salford Church, after a crisis in my life in 1971. I lived at King of Prussia. Our congregation really was interesting. It was a small congregation. It only met in our house, but it really had some pretty interesting people. There was nothing wrong with it. I liked it. But my kids were hanging out in the backyard with the neighbor kids. And I said to myself, this is not a community. Or at least I'm not making it a community. And the kids are they're going to Christopher High School, and that's a good influence and all. But one time, everybody was away. I was the only one on the property. And I went in the backyard, and township was cutting some kind of a pipeline through the backyard for
sewer or something like that.
Yeah, not water, waste. What do you call it?
A sewer line or something.
Yeah, a sewer line. Yeah, and in it was a place where you could go down in and take the lid off the top and go down in. So I went down in there where my kids had been hanging out, and I liked the fact that they hung out in our place because we were the only one with the backyard. So I pulled the thing off the top and I went down in, and here around it said somebody had put with a marker, "Things go better with hash."
Oh.
I said, okay, I'm resigning right now. I'm gonna move.
Wow.
That was a Saturday night. Next morning, to my dear little congregation, who still I have contact with.
Nice.
Here and there. Most of them have died off now. I said, I'm doing something I never dreamed I would do. I'm going to move. I'm losing the battle. I'm moving back where I can have some influence, frankly, some Gemeinschaft. I've got plenty of Gesellschaft, because the guy that the father of one of the other kids is hanging out there, I knew, just got the son got picked up for drugs. So I said, I'm losing this battle, and so that was the greatest come down of my life. So I moved back home to Harleysville, and first thing I know, my old friend from college, 1 year of college, was a minister at Salford, and he wanted me on there. I said, instead of being rejected, first thing you know, I'm asked to being an overseer at Franconia and Tillmanson and Lyne Lexington.
Wow.
What's this? So I was put on the board of Christopher Dock. I was asked to write a book, and 2 books, and then 3 books. And well, out of all that experience, I remember when I first came back and saw the Mennonites walking out of Salford with their old clothes. My skin crawled. That's not what I wanted. I'd been 5 years at Harvard. I didn't want it. And I fell in love with it.
Wow. You really did. You obviously did. Here you are, 60 years later, still celebrating that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not something you work up in yourself. You're taken by it.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
You don't try to explain it, you have it. And now that's what I did.
You clearly have that, John. And this has been amazing. I could listen to you talk all day. And I hope that we will have many more opportunities to do so.
Well, let me just tell you something. I can make no rational sense of my life. And frankly, a lot of what I did was, I think, mainly an attitude, more than anything I wrote. That when I talk, those who are amenable to that feel. And it's not, they have it as much as I do. They don't explain it. You love, you have an instinct for what is real. Buildings are gone. Paths become superhighways with walls around them. You drive, you can't even see what's in the countryside. Warehouses replace fields. All you do is react. And sharing that sense of what must be at the center of that is where you transcend mere physicality.
Man, how do you even wrap this? I mean, that's beautiful, really. I can't say anything else. I have nothing to say. You're amazing, John. I'm so grateful that you've spent your 96 years, or almost all of them, here celebrating this, the things that made us us in this community. There's a there, and you are a huge part of that. So thank you. And Cory, you want to say that you're still here?
I'm still here, and I'm enthralled. I'm having the best time.
Yeah, John, we can't thank you enough for not just today, but for everything you've done.
You know, you don't have to worry after something has happened. It wasn't nothing. The fact that there is anything is already proof that there's something.
I think that's a perfect place to end, John. Thank you again, and thank you to Cory for just being here to soak all of this in. This has been great.
Can I say one thing?
Please.
You asked him the question of what brought him back here, and he wove this story over and over, and at the very end, he told you why he was back here again, and it was like, what?
I know, John, you're at 96. I just can't even fathom how amazing that is. And
You wanted to hear something funny.
Let's end on that.
It doesn't work that way for everybody. You see what you are. One time, I remember so well, the son of one of my buddies in grade school, when I came back, they said to our youth fellowship, John Ruth will tell some stories. And the son of this man, he was about 15, responded by saying, "Oh, no."
That's a wonderful way to end. We don't feel that way. All right, John and Cory, thank you again. We appreciate it, and this has been absolutely wonderful.